What's going on, everybody? Welcome into episode 136 of the MudWatch Sports Podcast on this Tuesday, January 20th, 2026. I'm your host, Zach Malum. But before we get started, please subscribe below. Follow all of my social accounts. Let's start things off in the world of basketball as the New York Knicks were in action on Monday evening. They hosted the Dallas Mavericks at Madison Square Garden. The Knicks lost that game 114-97, the final. They dropped their fourth straight and their ninth loss in their last 11 games. The Knicks are an absolute disaster right now, and Knicks fans do not know where to look. But I'll tell you where to look. Look back on July 7, 2025, when the Knicks hired Mike Brown as the franchise's next head coach. They fired Tom Thibodeau a month earlier after losing in the Eastern Conference Finals to Indiana. But Mike Brown was brought in for his expertise on the offensive side of the ball. What he was not brought in for was his expertise on the defensive side of the ball, and the Knicks are paying for it right now. You look offensively in the last month or so, the month of December, where the Knicks were absolutely cruising. 14 games, they were 10-4. They were averaging over 122 points per game on the offensive end. Now you look at January, the last 10 games, the Knicks are averaging just over 107 points per game on the offensive side of the ball. And defensively, you don't expect anything from Mike Brown and his teams on the defensive side of the ball. They've always struggled. You look back to his time in Sacramento, everything was great offensively, but when it came to defense, they were a disaster, and that's what the Knicks are really dealing with right now. When the offense is not rolling, the defense is nowhere to be found. That's a Mike Brown system for you, and the Knicks are paying for it on the offensive side of the ball right now. Like I said, the last 10 games, 107 points per game is just not good enough, and 33%, almost 34%, from beyond the arc. I know the Knicks have been dealing with a lot of injuries left and right. Jalen Brunson's missed some games. Karl Anthony Towns missed some games. OG Anunoby's missed some games. Josh Hart was coming back from injury. But this Knicks team offensively is nowhere to be found, and their defense is not able to pick them up in any game. And the last couple of games, you've really seen that. The Knicks have really played so bad on offense. 99 points against Phoenix and 97 points against Dallas. The defense really wasn't as bad as you would think. 106 they allowed to Phoenix, 114 they allowed to Dallas. That's really around the season average, actually below the season average that the Knicks have been allowing so far this season. So they really just need to pick things up on the offensive side of the ball. And really, in practice, what is Mike Brown doing defensively? Because it seems like it's all three-point drills, dishing out to the three-point line, offensive sets, everything you want offensively. The Knicks do nothing to help themselves on the defensive side of the ball. And when you don't play well offensively and you're bad on defense, the Knicks are really paying the consequences for it right now. 9 of their last 11 they've lost, and they continue to struggle right now in the Eastern Conference. The good thing for the Knicks is that they played so well in the beginning of this season, and they're still 25-18, even with losing 9 of their last 11 games. So they've really helped themselves with the early start and the great start that they had early on this season. But they really need to pick things up right now, especially on the offensive side of the ball, because if they don't have offense and they don't have defense, they're really a disaster of a team, and they're really proving that right now. 25-18 on the year now the Knicks are, and they head into a game against the Brooklyn Nets, a very winnable game at home at Madison Square Garden. This one takes place tomorrow night, 7:30 start. No total, no spread out just yet, but the 12-29 Brooklyn Nets face off against the 25-18 New York Knicks. If the Knicks do not win this game, they're in real trouble right now in the Eastern Conference, because they'll drop in terms of seeding, and that's something that you're going to have to worry about later on in the year. And there's still noise right now up in Boston that Jason Tatum, will be back for later on in this season, and probably there for a postseason run for the Boston Celtics. So they're going to have to deal with a lot. Detroit's rolling right now in the East, and the Knicks need to be a lot better. Make sure you tune in, if you want to tomorrow's game. Tomorrow night, 7:30 start. The Knicks host the Nets. A very winnable game. The Knicks have to stop the struggle right now. The a couple of wins during this spin have come against the Clippers, who are a disaster, and they ended up beating a good Portland team on the road, but a team that they should beat in the Portland Trailblazers. So the Knicks trying to snap their 4-game skid. Make sure you tune in tomorrow night if you want to, as the Nets take on the Knicks at MSG. Staying in the world of basketball, but moving things to college, as St. John's went down to Villanova on the weekend, took on the Villanova Wildcats, a very tough game down in Philadelphia, and St. John's comes up with a huge Big East win. They moved to 6-1 in the Big East on the year, with an 86-79 win over the Villanova Wildcats, as Bryce Hopkins led the way for the Johnnies. 20 points in this game, shot only 6 of 14 from the field, but did some good work and hit 8 of his 10 free throws, 6 rebounds as well in this game. Really props in this game to Dylan Mitchell, who did a lot of great work on the boards in this one. 10 points, 10 rebounds, has a double-double in this game for the St. John's Red Storm in 35 minutes, and started the game, a guy who's really not known for starting so far this season. But I like what Rick Pitino did. He really relied on his bigger lineup to get him over the line in this game. Josan Sanin does have some size as a guard, but he came off the bench in this game, and so did Dylan Darling, who does not have a lot of size, who only played 10 minutes in this game. And it really ended up coming to the benefit of St. John's. Darling did a good job coming off the bench, had 3 assists in the game, but you really saw the size take an impact against this Villanova team. Ian Jackson also started the game, had 18 points in 23 minutes, really was rolling in this one, 7 of 12 shooting from the field. And when you look at it, St. John's gets a huge win over Villanova in Big East play. Probably an argument that Villanova was fighting with St. John's as the second best team in the Big East this season, right behind the UConn Huskies. And I think St. John's really took the reins of that number 2 spot in the Big East right now with that win against Villanova on the road. Of course, Seton Hall ended up losing their last couple of games and starting to sputter just a little bit. Lost to Butler, also lost to UConn, and Seton Hall is kind of dropping right now as they head into a very tough matchup against the Red Storm. But looking back at that Villanova game, I think that is a huge, huge game to really build the confidence of this St. John's team. They're able to go on the road. They're able to face off against a very tough opponent who's been rolling so far this season in Villanova and beat them on their home floor pretty comfortably in the end. Not really a close enough game that you're really worrying about it. St. John's had the lead for the most part, 86-79, like I said, the final, as they take down the Villanova Wildcats down in Philadelphia. And St. John's, I mentioned, they have a tough game against Seton Hall. Let's talk about that one. It takes place tonight at 7 o'clock at Madison Square Garden, and it's the Battle of New York, it seems. Of course, Seton Hall across the river. The Battle of the Tri-State Area, we'll say, as Seton Hall takes on St. John's, 7 o'clock at MSG, and St. John's comes into this game as 10.5-point favorites, total sitting at 145.5, and this game is a very winnable game for the St. John's Red Storm. If they end up taking this one by the throat, they know how big of a game this could be for later on in the season when they seed themselves in Big East play. This is a huge game on their home floor, as they're going to have to face off against Seton Hall on the road at the Rock later on this season. But right now, handle business at MSG. Handle business on your home floor. You got the home crowd behind them. You got Seton Hall fans will probably be in the crowd, but this is going to be a St. John's crowd at MSG, and they have to prove that they are the number 2 team right now in the Big East. 6-1 on the year. The one loss came against Providence, a stunner at MSG a couple of weeks ago, and St. John's has done a very good job of bouncing back after that one, where a lot of people were really down on the Johnnies after that game and said, yeah, this season's over, it's a disaster. St. John's has bounced back very strong after that Providence game with a couple of wins in a row, and they need another one tonight. Seton Hall comes into the game 14-4 on the year, 4-3 in Big East play, and it should be a tough one for the Johnnies, but they should handle it. Let's see what they do. Make sure you tune in. It's going to be a great one. Tonight on FS1, a 7 o'clock start as Seton Hall takes on St. John's at Madison Square Garden. Shifting things to football, as it is a great time to be a New York Giant fan right now, as John Harbaugh agrees to a 5-year deal with the Giants. Reported $20 million he's being paid per season. And Harbaugh, now at the age of 63, is a phenomenal hire by the Giants. Great job by John Mara, Joe Shane, and the rest of the Giants organization bringing Harbaugh in after he spent 18 seasons with the Baltimore Ravens, went 180 and 113, ultimately won a Super Bowl as well down in Baltimore. And even though it's been a little shaky down in Ravens country recently, the consistency that he had of making the postseason and being a contender in the AFC every year he was with Baltimore is what really stands out to me about John Harbaugh and a team in the Giants that are desperately looking to be in the playoffs each and every year. And it's been a disaster, you could say, since they won those couple of Super Bowls over a decade ago. John Harbaugh is the perfect guy to try and get them back on track. They have a young rookie quarterback in Jackson Dart heading into his second year next year, along with some very high-level young pieces on the offensive and defensive side of the ball. And Harbaugh will get the job done. I'm curious to see what he does in terms of his offensive coordinator job that is open right now. He's really focused on the defense, Harbaugh is. Every single spot he's gone to, it's been the focus on defense and special teams, whereas he's allowed somebody else to take the reins on the offensive side. And we'll see who his offensive coordinator will be. Will it be somebody from Baltimore that he'll bring over to the Giants organization? That's a matter of time that we'll figure that one out. But a really, really great job by the Giants to get John Harbaugh. And I, a couple of weeks ago, was talking about Kevin Stefanski as the best possible option. I felt like his work on the offensive side of the ball with multiple quarterbacks over the years out in Cleveland would really help out a guy like Jackson Dart. But I love that the Giants were able to get John Harbaugh. Let me be clear, John Harbaugh, one of the top head coaches in the NFL. And the fact that he was fired by the Ravens after 18 seasons just tells you that they were going in a different direction. But the Giants said, thank you very much. We'll take him. We'll gladly take him for a team that has really struggled over the last couple of seasons. 7-27 record in the last 2 seasons. That's where the Giants sit right now. And they end up getting a very much needed winning coach in John Harbaugh to come in and be the franchise's next head coach. So we'll see what happens. There's still a lot more to go on this offseason. The Giants prepare for the draft. The Giants prepare for free agency. And with Harbaugh as their head coach, the Giants have become a hot place to go in free agency. We'll see how many guys go to New York now with John Harbaugh being the next head coach of the New York Giants. So we'll see what happens. Make sure you tune in the next couple of weeks as we get more noise on who will take over as the offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator of the New York Giants. Let's finish things off today in the world of baseball. The biggest news of the New York offseason so far was last week as Bo Bichette agreed to a 3-year, $126 million deal with the New York Mets. And Bo Bichette, a longtime Toronto Blue Jay, had a huge home run in Game 7 of the World Series last year, comes to the New York Mets, expected to play third base for the Mets for this upcoming season, has opt-outs in each year of his 3-year deal. So that's going to be interesting for the Mets, and they bounce back after losing out on Kyle Tucker, who signed with the LA Dodgers, 4 years, $240. He got $60 million average annual value. I mean, just ridiculous stuff and a ridiculous deal in the end. And I think probably Bo Bichette in the end is a better deal for the New York Mets than it would have been with Kyle Tucker, and the price that they would have had to pay for Tucker, even though the opt-outs are coming in on this Bichette deal. The Mets need power right now, and although Bo Bichette is not a power type of player, he still hit 18 home runs last year. That's with the 311 average that he had. And I think Bo Bichette is a very big contributor now to this Mets lineup behind guys like Juan Soto. Probably going to bat in front of Juan Soto this season. Jorge Polanco's also there. They got some real good power in Francisco Lindor as well. That's something that they needed to pick up on in terms of power when they lose out on Pete Alonso in this offseason. They trade Brandon Nimmo as well. I think it's the best move for the Mets right now, getting Bichette. He's going to play third base for the Mets as well. And they have a lot of guys that can come in off the bench. It looks like Mark Vientos is probably out the door for the Mets heading into this upcoming season. You also have Brett Baty, who's still looking for a spot in the team right now, and looks like he could play a little bit of left field. I don't like that idea. I think the better option is Carson Bench, the young outfielder, who had a phenomenal year last year, really came up through the ranks of the Mets farm system, and he'll slot in probably as the starting left fielder on opening day for the Mets. They still need to add another outfielder, and they desperately need to add pitching. They still need a top guy in the top end of their rotation, and they really have come nowhere close to signing one of those guys. The noise has come out about Framber Valdez. They maybe were interested in Ranger Suarez, but not interested in giving him the deal that the Red Sox gave him. I think right now the Mets go into this season with the same problem they had last year. They're relying on this rotation and a couple of guys to get them over the line. When those couple of guys dealt with injuries, it completely imploded. And you saw that after Kodai Senga went down in the middle of June. Everything from there, Griffin Canning was part of that. He tore his Achilles as well. They have a lot of guys who are solid arms in the starting rotation, but nobody that you can really level up to over the edge and the top of the line starter type of crew. You just don't see that in this Mets rotation right now. Nolan McLean being the top guy right now. However, he's only 10 starts into his major league career. That was also late in the season as well. So you look at Nolan McLean starting fresh after a long off season, starting fresh in his rookie year of his major league career. That could be a different Nolan McLean than the one that we saw last year. He has the stuff, and that's not what I'm worried about. I'm worried about a full 162 game season with 30 plus starts from Nolan McLean. Let's see how he does in terms of that, because that's really where you're going to tell if Nolan McLean is a top level starter in Major League Baseball. You're not going to tell that from just 10 games or 13 games or whatever he had in the back end of last season. So the Mets desperately need pitching, still need starting pitching, and they have to really figure that out as the rest of the offseason goes on. But we're already at January 20th, and I still don't trust the Mets rotation right now. If they get Framber Valdez, maybe I trust it a little bit more. Maybe if they get Zach Gallen, that's another guy that can eat up some innings for them and also probably be their second or third guy in the rotation. That's really what we're looking at right now for the New York Mets. On the other side of New York, the New York Yankees are still going back and forth with Cody Bellinger, who seems like he's really mulling other offers right now compared to the Yankees, who, in my opinion, probably gave him the best offer. You don't know if anybody went higher in terms of AAV for Bellinger, but he's really not worried about the AAV. He's worried about the years. And 7 years for Cody Bellinger just doesn't make sense. Like I mentioned a couple episodes ago, it just does not fit what the Yankees are looking for. And 7 years for a 30-year-old outfielder whose best part of his game is probably his defense. That's what you're looking at in terms of Bellinger. And that's going to be on the decline sooner rather than later. His defense is really going to take a dip. I know he had 29 home runs last year, 98 RBIs, a career high in a lot in terms of his numbers offensively last year. But his best season in about 6 years offensively. Defensively, you're getting what you want in Cody Bellinger, but not for 7 years. You're getting it in the first 3, maybe 4 years. And the Yankees are probably right now looking at 5 as the perfect spot for Cody Bellinger. And he's just not taking it right now. So there's still a lot left to be done in terms of this Cody Bellinger saga. I think he'll just end up back with the Yankees. I think the Yankees probably giving him the best offer right now. The team I would worry about is the Toronto Blue Jays, who were very interested in an outfielder. Now that they lost Bo Bichette, obviously an infielder, but they lost out on Bo Bichette. They also lost out on Kyle Tucker, who they were very high in the sweepstakes for. So still looking for an outfielder. And wouldn't it be great for Toronto to steal Cody Bellinger away from the Yankees and have him terrorize the Yankees in the division this year? Probably for a Blue Jays fan, not so much for a Yankee fan. So we'll see what happens, but still plenty of work to be done, and we'll see what happens the rest of the offseason. Mets and Yankees, still a lot to be done as it's January 20th, and we're just over a month from spring training. But that will do it for episode 136 of the MudWatch Sports Podcast. Please subscribe below. I've been Zach Malum, thanks for watching, and talk to you all on Friday.